I did not know that.
Welcome to another episode of I Did Not Know That. Ever wonder about something? Maybe you'll find it here. Check out all the other videos on this channel and remember to like and subscribe. This episode, the story behind Andy's broken hand. This episode will again focus on the Andy Griffith Show, where for a couple of episodes Andy had a broken hand, how that happened and how the show dealt with it. Sometimes the rude realities of life intruded into the fantasies of our favorite TV shows. Back in the days of classic TV, this was a huge problem because they hated to destroy the illusion that they portrayed on the small screen. For example, if you recall, the original actor who played Darren on Bewitched somehow became a totally different person from one season to the next with no explanation. We learned years later that Dick York had been suffering for years with chronic back pain, and it finally got to the point he couldn't go on anymore. I always thought that at least they could have had some fun with this and have the original Darren get turned into the new Darren by Endora and say that for some reason she can't change him back. Another CBS show that ran in the Andy Griffith era was Family Affair. It was immediately a big hit in its very first season. But in the episode All About Town, Sebastian Cabot, who played Mr. French, appeared with his hand wrapped in a bandage. At the start of the next episode, One for the Little Boy, you see Mr. French writing a letter explaining that the Queen of England required his services and he must leave immediately. Actor John Williams stepped in as Mr. French's TV brother, and he filled in for 9 episodes. But the real reason for missing those shows was that Cabot had broke his hand and wrist severely enough that he had to have surgery. The injury story was a big secret for years, and to this day I'm not sure if anyone knows how he broke it so badly. So this brings us to the Andy Griffith Show, who had to face the similar problem of an actor with a real broken hand. In season 2, in the episode Aunt Bee the Warden, Andy appears at the start of the program with a bandaged hand. You can see it as he's bringing in the rowdy Gordon brothers. He caught them making moonshine, and he explained to Barney that he'd injured his hand when they put up a tussle. He said he had stopped over to Doc Zach's to have it wrapped. Often on TV, injuries disappear almost as fast as the characters get them. But Andy's hand was bandaged that entire episode. The big surprise was that the next week's episode, called The County Nurse, Andy again appears with the bandaged hand. The county nurse stops by and asks how the hand is coming along, to which Andy replies, "Fine, fine, just fine." And the topic is dropped. Throughout the episode, you catch short glimpses of the bandaged hand, but it's never referred to again. By the next episode, Andy's hand is no longer bandaged. So what's the story behind the damaged hand? I've read 2 explanations. The first one is that he injured his hand by punching a wall at home. The second, and the most repeated one, is that he broke his hand punching a wall on the set. While that may seem shocking, you can understand how it could happen. Sometimes the stress at work becomes overwhelming and you just need to punch a wall, just like another character named Andy did on another TV show. Just make sure you hit sheetrock and not a 2x4. While his character of Andy Taylor got to live in the quiet and laid-back town of Mayberry, the real Andy Griffith lived in a totally different world, one with a huge amount of pressure. He owned half the show, and while he was never credited, he was involved with the development of every script. He also had to memorize his part with a new script every week, act in the show, and also help supervise shooting each episode, and then his work reviewed by millions of people across America. The pressure had to be incredible. It's easy to think that the actor we see play a character every week is just like that character in real life, when often that's not the case. The real Andy Griffith could be intense. George Lindsay, who played Goober Pyle, said that every Monday night, Andy would call you if he liked your performance. If the call didn't come, he dreaded going to work on Tuesday morning. Andy Griffith could not be the almost perfect Andy Taylor, any more than Andy Griffith was actually the wild and conniving con man, Lonesome Rhodes, he played in the film A Face in the Crowd.
Look out for him. He's mean.
But if the president tries to stop me, I'll flood the White House
the telegrams.
I'm guessing that the pressure to produce such high-quality programs week after week just made him lose his cool one day and punch a wall. One thing I can't imagine is how the show could have continued if Andy had damaged his hand as severely as Sebastian Cabot had. If he would have missed the following 9 episodes, that would have been a disaster. Could Don Knotts have carried the show without Andy as his straight man? Well, maybe Jack Burns' character of Warren Ferguson could have popped in and filled in for Andy until he returned.
Remember Chicago in the 20s?
Relax, that was a joke. Well, that's it, and I want to thank you so much for coming to my channel and taking a look to see what is here.